Aloha kakahiaka kako. Welcome to the hearing for the Committee on Agriculture and Food Systems. Today is March 29, 9:35 a.m., and we're convening here in room 325. Today I will be serving as acting chair, Vice Chair Kahaloa, and with me is Chair Gates. And before we get started, I'm going to go over some brief housekeeping rules. There's a 2-minute time limit per testifier in order to allow as many people to testify as possible. In the interest of time, if you have submitted testimony on time, our committee has received it. If you wish to present oral testimony, please summarize your testimony. For testifiers attending over Zoom, please keep yourself muted and your video off while waiting to testify and after your testimony is complete. The Zoom chat function will allow you to chat with the tech staff only. Please use the Zoom chat for technical issues only. If you are disconnected unexpectedly, you may attempt to rejoin the meeting. If disconnected while presenting testimony, you may be allowed to continue if time permits. Please note the House is not responsible for any bad internet connections on the testifier's end. In the event of catastrophic network failure, it may be necessary to reschedule the hearing or schedule a meeting for decision making. In that case, an appropriate notice will be posted. Please refrain from profanity or uncivil behavior. Such behavior may be grounds for removal from the hearing without ability to rejoin. Lastly, if time permits, we will offer the opportunity for walk-in testimony. For those who would like to testify in person but who did not sign up, please make sure to provide your contact information to the clerk sitting to my right-hand side against the wall. We will now begin the hearing, and the first bill we will be hearing today is the first resolution. This is a resolution hearing, is HCR 38 and HR 42. Our first testimony is Ulupono Initiative.
Good morning, Vice Chair Kahaloa, Chair Gates, members of the committee. Micah Munikata here on behalf of the Ulupono Initiative. We stand in our testimony in support of this measure. I think it's very important to note that this measure seeks to expand the federal dollars that are available to states to take advantage of, and to point out that our state has done a very good job through the Department of Agriculture's Healthy Incentive Program. The program is administered through the Hawaii Food Basket, as I'm sure we all know. They do an amazing job at grant writing, and they're able to take advantage of a lot of those federal funds that are out there. So any way in which we can increase that federal dollar amount coming or available to states, and Hawaii included, would be amazing. I think it's important also to note that in order for us to take a hold of those federal dollars, we need to also have a match. So bills like House Bill 1248, Vice Chair, which you introduced and are moving through this session, are very important. So if we can secure some level of consistent state funding throughout, we can also take advantage of that federal money that's coming in. So everything works together in a way, and so really looking forward to a lot of the momentum this session. Hopefully we can find some money available for the program consistently over time so that we can consistently take advantage of this federal money that's available. Thank you very much, Vice Chair.
Thank you. And just to note which agenda item we're on, this is urging the National Institute of Food and Agriculture of the United States Department of Ag to issue additional funding for the Gus Shoemaker Nutrition Incentive Program, or GusNIP program, to provide matching funds for the expansion of the state Double Up Food Bucks program to all approved supplemental nutrition assistance program retail outlets throughout the state. We have 7 in support, 1 in opposition. And is there anyone else here to testify on this resolution this morning? Any comments or questions from committee? Okay, we will move on to the next resolution, HCR 43 and HR 47, urging the Department of Land and Natural Resources, in consultation with the Hawaii Invasive Species Council, to develop a comprehensive strategy for managing the rose ring parakeet population. First to testify this morning is DLNR.
Aloha, Acting Chair and Chair and members of the committee. Nice to see you all. Chelsea Arnott on behalf of the Department of Land and Natural Resources, and also program support for the Hawaii Invasive Species Council. We stand on our testimony, providing comments. I actually think this is a great next step for addressing the problem of rose-ring parakeets. We've seen the populations of these parakeets explode on many of the islands in recent years, and where they used to never be around the capital, now we're seeing them here, taking up spots for the monooku, our native birds over here, and also just resulting in a lot of damage to agricultural commodities on the different islands, especially Oahu and Kauai. It's a complex problem, and it really does need the coordination of something like the Hawaiian Invasive Species Council, which is a state coordinating body, to come up with a management strategy. But again, the council is not does not have the ability to develop the actual strategy. So even though we support the development of this strategy, it does need an appropriation to do the contract work, to have somebody bring stakeholders together and go through that process of developing a comprehensive management strategy for rose-ring parakeets. So appreciate the consideration of our testimony, and I'm available for any questions. Mahalo.
Thank you. For this resolution, we had 3 in support, 1 in opposition, with 2 comments. Actually, 2 are both from DLNR for both resolutions. Any others wanting to testify on this resolution? Any questions from committee? 1 question for DLNR. Chelsea, if we read your testimony and we're looking to put the Invasive Species Council as lead and make sure that the DOA and DLNR are helping with the strategy to create a plan. If there were funding within the budget, would this be a resolution that could be actualized and activated per your testimony?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, definitely, and we've done it before where HISC has served as a coordinating body for the development of the Hawaii Interagency Biosecurity Plan, but that was launched by the Department of Agriculture. So we've done this in the past through our council's role, through coordination with the various state departments, and even bringing together other stakeholders like the counties, the city and county, private industry, and whoever else needs to be at the table.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, mahalo.
Any other questions? We're going to move on to the next resolution. That is HCR 105 and HR 111, requesting the Department of Education to develop a strategic plan to meet the locally sourced food goals established in Act 175 and 176, Session Laws of Hawaii 2021. First to testify on this measure, 105, 111, is Ulupono Initiative.
Morning, Vice Chair, Chair, and members of the committee. Micah Munikata here on behalf of the Ulupono Initiative. We stand on our testimony in support of these resolutions. I think what we're seeking to accomplish with measures such as these is to get a strategic plan put out there for folks to see how we're doing, to see how we're going to move forward. I think we all have the right goal in mind, and we all want to see more local food in our meals. It's just how we get there. So I think that there's a lot of things that can come from developing a strategic plan, and a lot of direction that can come from it. We understand this resolution also calls out for dedicated resources in the farm to school coordinator position as well. So again, opening up some ability to really dedicate time and energy to develop this gargantuan task really that the DOE does have. We understand that it is a different way of doing things, but also that this is an effort that's been ongoing for quite some years now. So it might be helpful for us to consider what a strategic direction looks like. There's been talks about a central kitchen and what that would look like. I think that's fine, but we also need to know what that will look like at the end of the day. How will we actually get more farmers to participate in this program? How will we get more local food in front of kids? So, we have submitted testimony support, like I said. We have some additional detailed points that we'd like for the committee to consider. Understand it's quite extensive. However, this level of detail we feel would be very helpful in any kind of strategic business plan to move forward with such a large budget and really in what you're trying to do with such a large task. It makes sense to kind of get that intricate detail within a plan. So again, we're hopeful that we can start to move forward on some of these things. There's a lot of great things that are happening at the DOE to start to move in that direction. I think just adding a direction or a strategic plan would be helpful. Thank you very much, Vice Chair.
Thank you. Department of Education, Area Superintendent Tanaka instead of Kurt.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Aloha. Thank you very much. We have submitted testimony. You should know that a lot of these things that are in the resolution is already in motion. There are some key elements, some what I would call cornerstone elements that are framed up. We need a little bit more research in some areas, and really on the supply side, because the supply side will determine how we can fulfill the goals and objectives of getting more local product to our students. The other side is really a menu side for adaptation and acceptance of the product that we will serve our kids. So a lot of it is already in motion. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 7 in support of both resolutions, 1 in opposition, and we also have Hawaii Appleseed via Zoom.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Good morning. My name is Daniela Spoto from Hawaii Appleseed. We stand in strong support of this resolution. Agree with Ulupono Initiative that the central kitchen idea is one component of ensuring the success of the Farm to School program that will hopefully assist with supply. There are other considerations internally within the operations that I know the DOE is aware of and working on, but it would be really nice to be able to know how that's all happening, to make sure that we can take advantage of some community resources and school level resources that are available. I do know that the City and County of Honolulu has a USDA grant available to support this process, and we think it would be really nice to engage cafeteria staff to see what their thoughts are, to get student feedback, providing some staff training. There's a lot of things that need to happen internal with the operations. So in addition to the central kitchen, we think that having this strategic plan in place and having a process for gathering community input would be really helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify on these resolutions, please come. High five.
Yes. Hello, Acting Chair, other Chair, committee members. I did actually submit online, but I think it was late, so there should be a record of it. I'm Dennis Chase from the Hawaii Public Health Institute. I'm representing the Hawaii Farm to School Hui. And we basically want to say we are in support of this, and I think it's a relatively humble ask. At Hi-Fi, we have a variety of grants, and in order to receive those grants, we have to submit proposals, which are often 20, 30, 40 pages long. We have a $5,000 grant from the Johnson Ohana Foundation that we have to do a 7-page report on every 6 months. We have a $50,000 grant from DLNR that we have to do a report on every 3 months, And before the reports, there are the proposals, 20, 30, 40 pages long. So given that it's a $100 million budget, somewhere between 50 and 60 million of it goes to food. So we're talking about $15 to $20 million on local food per year. Taking a couple of the ideas, the things that are in work, as Assistant Superintendent Tanaka testified, and writing those down and making them publicly available, it seems like a very small ask. So that's why we're in support of this bill. And I look forward to reading the report that you have to generate from this testimony after today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to testify on these resolutions? Any questions, committee? Representative Peruso.
I have a question for Daniela from Appleseed. So I really appreciated your testimony, especially on the second page where you mentioned that vastly underutilized resource, the 193 production kitchens and the 44 serving kitchens, because I agree with you that resilience for the community and support for the community comes through support of those community schools. So I appreciated that point in your testimony, but I also wanted to ask you if you had had a chance to take a look at Ulupono's testimony, because they are asking for the measure to be amended to include a pretty specific but also very interesting list of additionally detailed points. So I was wondering, have you had a chance to look at that, and what do you think of it, if so?
I have, yes. I think it's got a lot of really great points in it. Even Assistant Superintendent Tanaka mentioned the menu development. I think the points that they make in there about data collection are really important. I know that strategic plans can be varied in scope and detail. So I do think it's nice to have a list of bulleted things that we'd like to see. And some of the things in here, I do think, spelling them out so that we can make sure that we get to see them is really helpful.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. That's all.
Any other questions, committee? Okay, we will move on to the next resolution. That is HCR 110 and HR 116, requesting the Department of Agriculture, Department of Land and Natural Resources, Department of Health, the City and County of Honolulu, and the County of Hawaii to collaborate to establish and implement a 5-year pilot program to mitigate and control the significant increase in the population of feral chickens and roosters. First is Department of Agriculture.
Good morning, Acting Chair, members of the committee. Isaac Maeda, Administrator for the Department of Agriculture. The department will stand on its testimony in opposition. We believe that this is something that should be managed by the counties. Thank you.
Thank you. DLNR.
Aloha Chairs, Representative Peruso, Chelsea Arnott, Department of Land and Natural Resources, and also program support for the Hawaii Invasive Species Council. The department stands on its written testimony. It's providing comments. It also reflects the Department of Agriculture's own testimony. Mahalo.
Thank you. Next testimony, Department of Health.
Good morning, Acting Chair and Vice Chair and members of the committee. The department stands with our written testimony, and I'm here for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? There are 2 in support, 3 in opposition, 2 with comments. Noting that, any questions from the committee?
Chair.
Yes.
Question.
Chair Gates.
Okay. Could I get DLNR? Hi, thanks for your testimony on this measure. I guess there's been a lot of debate whether who deals with invasive species and feral chickens and so forth. Do you think it's the department's role to help facilitate these type of eradications of feral chickens or invasive species in general?
Yeah, mahalo for the question, Chair Gates. So the Department of Land and Natural Resources does have a responsibility to control feral animals on public lands, so state lands. When it comes to the Hawaii Invasive Species Council, which is administered solely under the Department of Land and Natural Resources, there is a role for the council to serve as a coordinating body amongst the state agencies. Of course, we have representation from the 6 state agencies that have some jurisdiction in invasive species work, management, prevention, and we can also invite county representation to attend meetings that we have for the council. They're just non-voting members. So there is a role the council could play in helping to come up with some kind of management strategy or address, the purpose of the council, which is invasive species don't stick to boundaries, right? Or jurisdictions. They cross over all those. So we need to have a coordinating body to address this. And I do see measures coming up to address feral chickens and pigs because it's a major problem. So the council could serve a role in that, but the way the resolution is written as is, we have comments and think that the ultimate lead for doing such work should be the counties or the city and county of Honolulu.
Okay. And is the counties involved with HISC?
There's an opportunity to re-engage them. We do talk to them, not in a council manner, but based on our island invasive species committees, which do work on each of the counties. But we haven't engaged them in recent council meetings, but that's definitely something our new co-chairs of the council want to reinvigorate.
Okay. And if you could quickly list the agencies that are part of HISC?
Yes, so we have, it's co-chaired, so it's established under state statute 194. It's co-chaired by the Department of Land and Natural Resources and Department of Agriculture chairs. And then we also have representation from the Departments of Health, Transportation, Business Economic Development, and the University of Hawaii. So those are our voting council members. And then we also have our non-voting legislative members, which are, there's a senator and representative from each county, and then we can also invite federal and county members to attend, as mentioned before.
Got it. And is HISC drawing down, is there federal buckets of money that we could be drawing down through the council to help eradicate these invasive species? Are we going after those?
Yes, we do. We get general funds from the legislature each year in appropriation, which has been amazing because that helps us match federal funds. And that's been my role as the coordinator program support for Hawaii Invasive Species Council, is to identify other pots of funding, because of course the problem is growing and we need to find additional funding. So we've been able to secure federal appropriations requests, congressionally directed spending, and some other opportunities that have come about to support invasive species work across the state.
Got it. One more question, Chair. In order to achieve what we're setting out to do with eradicating invasive species, it seems like, is it a personnel issue more than like a lump funding issue?
There's multiple issues, and that's why we have a state guiding document, the Hawaii Interagency Biosecurity Plan, that identifies the most pressing gaps and ways to address that over the course of 10 years. So that was launched by the Department of Agriculture in 2017, and we're a little over halfway through implementation of the plan. And that pulls together all the various state departments that I just mentioned that are on our HISC council, but also other partners that are working to address those gaps, but definitely capacity within our state departments, and a growing pot of funding and resources to address the growing need of invasive species, especially under this veil of climate change that we're going to be facing.
Got it. Last question, Chair. Would roosters and pigs be considered under the Hawaii Interagency or Invasive Species Council as invasive species?
They can, because they have a negative impact. An invasive species, as defined by federal law, is any non-native species that has some negative impact on agriculture, human health, the economy, the environment. So yeah, it could be considered, those could be considered invasive species. They're challenging, and a lot of times the council focuses on species where we can make the biggest impact, and sometimes those widespread species, you just end up dumping a lot of resources into trying to manage them without being able to eradicate them, where we could spend those funds better in prevention or early detection and rapid response for new or incipient species.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, mahalo for the questions.
No problem.
I have a follow-up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Great
Chair.
questions, Chair. Are feral chickens and roosters part of the current biosecurity plan? Have they elevated as, I guess that's the question, have they, following up on Chair's questions, elevated enough to be an invasive species or pest in the plan?
So the actions, mahalo for the question. The actions in the plan don't address specific species. They address different capacity, infrastructure, funding, policy needs, and it's separated like that in the plan. So you could put, feral chickens and into some component of that plan where maybe response plans are needed. So that's one of the actions in the biosecurity plan, but it's not specifically called out. No pest is specifically called out in that plan.
And as an example, because some of the testimony, at least from Department of Ag, talked about like the trap collections, and maybe that's not a function that they normally do, but does DLNR, similar to Hawaii Island, where people hand out like turkey traps as an example, is that managed by DLNR or is it managed by the counties?
I would have to get more information probably from our state parks and in the different branches, the different wildlife branches, but I know there's been trapping in the past at state parks, for feral cats and also maybe chickens. And then definitely there's trapping that happens around sensitive areas like wetlands, but I'm not sure about for feral chickens, so I can find out more information on that and get back to you.
Yeah, if there's a state mechanism because it asked for a pilot program to provide free traps. And the only model I know in the state was turkeys in Waikoloa, and I don't know who managed that program, if it was county or state. But it's a similar process, so we kind of like to see, is that a county model or is that a state model? If it's a state model, is it DLNR? Because that means we've done it before, and there's some precedent to continue that, just with a different species of animal.
Okay, yeah, I'll look into that and see if that's something our department has done in the past and send you that information.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you very much,
mahalo.
Chelsea. We are going to move on to the next resolution set. It's HCR 131 and HR 132. Requesting the Department of Agriculture to conduct a study to recommend appropriate labeling requirements for Hawaii-grown tea. First to testify is Department of Agriculture.
Good morning, Acting Chair, Chair, and member of the committee. Leo Baldo testifying on behalf of Chairperson Sharon Hurd. We stand on our written testimony, appreciating the intent of this resolution and offering comments. Just briefly to mention that we don't currently have the expertise, so to conduct this study, we may need a consultant to help us, and that's basically the main comment. And we'll be available for questions if you have any.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is all I have for those who wish to testify on these resolutions. Anyone else wishing to testify? Any questions from the committee? Okay, we will move on to the next set of resolutions. That is HCR 169 and HR 174, requesting the Department of Agriculture to examine existing laws related to the sugar and pineapple industries and determine whether updates should be made for the utilization of diversified crops. First to testify is Department of Agriculture. In support. Lots of testimony, and no one else actually asked to testify on this measure. There are For HCR 169, we have one comment from Department of Agriculture. Seeing no one else wishing to testify, any questions from the committee? We will move on to the next measure, that is HCR 175 and HR 180, requesting the Department of Agriculture to examine organic pesticides for authorized use in the state. We received a lot of testimony and no one wishing to testify in person. So that is support from 37 organizations, Hawaii Department of Ag in support. Anyone here from Department of Ag to testify? It doesn't say, oh, please come on up.
Good morning, Acting Chair, Chair Gates, and Rep. Peruso. My name is Greg Takashima. I'm the Acting Pesticides Program Manager on behalf of the Department of Agriculture. We do stand on our written testimony and with comments, and I'm available for questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to testify on these resolutions? Again, we have 37 in support, 2 in opposition, 2 with comments on HCR 175, and 1 in support for HR 180. Any questions from committee? Chair Gates.
All right. Greg, come on up. Price is right. So for this measure, I know that the department has some reservations regarding the ask that we made in the reso. I know that you guys listed that nonprofits such as the Organic Material Review Institute provides full list of products. Is that list then taken by the department and authorized for use, or is that just list that you guys look at?
So thank you for the question. That list is basically a list of all the products. So, organic products and production span, fertilizers, pesticides, amendments to crops and production techniques that are allowed in organic production. We use those, we do look at them, but the actual approval for use on organics is done by those nonprofits as well as USDA. They set the rules for the organic program. For every label, every pesticide label that has that organic signature on it, it has to go through that process. And we currently don't use any of the lists, but we are developing a database so that we can, do a checkbox that'll say, yes, this is an organic product. So the database will be able to filter out all of that information and provide a list of pesticides that should be used for a specific crop.
Got it. I think the origin of this reso was that the department is somewhat reactive, for lack of better words, of how the approval process works when it comes to new organic pesticides or pesticides in general. It's the application process, and then you gotta wait for it to get approved and so forth. So I think the goal of this reso is to try to create a streamlined process where products that are being offered can be determined prior to an application being filled out and completed for approval. And it seems like you guys are modernizing your systems to be able to have a better way and format of getting these things approved. But I think that's the intent of the reso, is to see how we can encourage the type of support in terms of not having farmers and ranchers who are maybe not so good with paperwork and all of that kind of stuff to be required to go and deal with all of that paperwork to just get approval on the usage of these different pesticides. Long story short, how do we besides the modernization discussion that you brought up, how do we foresee us being able to create that nexus to be able to say, hey, these are all the products that are being pushed out or being provided, and the state being proactive in making sure that the weight process and all of those type of approvals are kind of lined up already?
Sure. So currently we have, the way we license the products is it's a first in, first out system, right? There is a queue that's generated because review of certain pesticide products does take some time. We've got to go through the entire label, make sure it follows all of the federal regs, all of the state regs. So in that review and in that prioritization process, we'll have to look at and get some direction from our chair to determine whether or not we can prioritize and also check with our deputy AGs to ensure that it's a fair process for all. So we'll definitely look into it.
Okay. And then I have one more question, Chair. In the testimony that you guys provided, you said that the department should not show bias towards one type of production over another. How do you maintain that unbiased when you are going through approval process?
Sure. So currently, again, it is a first in, first out system. So once you submit an application, it goes into that queue. Basically, you go to the back of the line because there are currently about 300 or so products that are in the queue that we process on a daily basis. We have 3 staff specifically for licensing and registration of pesticide products. But generally, the queue kind of stays the same amount of time because people submit and we process, right? So that's how we've been working our licensing and queue system. So, again, we can try and prioritize based on what our chair believes our priorities should be. And yeah, those are my best suggestions at the moment.
Okay, last question. Okay. Is organic pesticides considered better than conventional pesticides?
That's a very difficult question to answer. Based on a lot of the discussions, there's toxicology based on, there's the warning systems, right? So there's the lowest, the caution, then there's warning and danger, right? So generally it moves up a step in terms of toxicology and that's all required on the labels. Whether the product is more dangerous to human health, that's a totally different, totally separate thing. Whether it's safe for the environment. We do internal reviews for all products, all new products, to ensure that the products are not leaching into our groundwater and our environment. We're required by statute to do that. So that's basically how the organic. It's a difficult question to answer, and it's multi-layered.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, committee? One more question for you, Craig. Just a clarifying question.
Sure.
Is organic product that is used as a pesticide but is 100% natural? Let's use an example because I'm not a farmer or gardener. Lemon juice, if that were being as acting pesticide, would it ever be labeled organic pesticide? Or is there another category for farming that is natural, 100% natural product? Would it be called an organic pesticide?
Yeah, so again, it has to go through that organic certification process through either the National Organic, I forget what it's called, but it's a organization that basically certifies all organic products. Okay. They are generally, if they do the work and want to market themselves as an organic product, then they most likely would. But let's speak about certain homemade things like, people use homemade remedies for pesticides. Those, as long as they aren't distributing or making marketing claims for pesticidal use, those are perfectly fine and usable under state and federal law.
Just one follow-up question. Are there other ways to support the intent of this resolution to get to the end game of farmers don't always have the time to submit organic pesticide applications, but if they know it's already on the list, that helps save time and energy? Is there another way to kind of get to the point of the matter and the intent of the resolution?
Sure. So and just for a little bit of clarification, the farmers don't actually submit the applications to us. It's the manufacturers of the products that submit the applications to us. Off of the top of my head, it would be difficult to answer that question just because there's so many different types of crops. Each of the labels has a specific crop type, use rate, and PPE, and all of those things associated with it. We can kind of start to break it down with the newer technology that we are developing. But again, I have a hard time providing you with a pretty firm answer. Sorry.
No, that's super helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, committee? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're moving on to our final resolution set, that is HCR 176, HR 181, urging the Department of Agriculture to designate Kunia, Lelehua Plateau, and Po'amoho as the Central Oahu Agricultural Corridor, and to establish a list of prioritizing potential agricultural infrastructure improvement projects that would provide the most value to the state. First to testify is the Department of Agriculture. And they...
Present, I'm here.
Thank you.
Good morning, Vice Chair Kahaloa, Chair Gates, members of the committee. Earl Yamamoto representing the Department of Agriculture this morning. Let's see, the department has offers comments and recommendations. This resolution comes in two parts. First part asking for that designation of basically the Kunia corridor. We don't have any designation authority or capacity to make such a designation. We can informally identify this area as we have done in the past. The area between Wheeler Army Airfield and Schofield Barracks down to Rural Kunia and the Hawaii Ag Research Center down at the corner of Kunia Road and the H1. We've identified that area in the past as being particularly productive, potentially productive for intensive agricultural uses. The second part of the resolution is to establish a list prioritizing potential agricultural infrastructure improvement projects that would provide the most value to the state. We're not sure if this list is specific to this Kunia corridor identification, or is for the island of Oahu, or for the entire state. If this request for prioritized potential ag infrastructure improvements is limited to the proposed corridor, then we would suggest that perhaps the Agribusiness Development Corporation would be the appropriate body to address this, since they acquire and manage thousands of acres of land in Central Oahu, Wed Mar, Pomoho areas currently, and they also manage the Waihole irrigation ditch, and have many projects planned and are pending in that area to improve the use and expansion of agricultural activities in that area. So again, if the intention or the intent of the resolution is to identify agricultural improvements for the specific area, we recommend that the ADC be the party to answer that question. That concludes my remarks. I'll be here for any questions you may have.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. We have no other testimonies in person. We have Farm Bureau in support, Hawaii Crop Improvement Association in support. And so that is 4 in support and 2 comments. Anyone else wishing to testify on these resolutions? Thank you very much. Committee, any questions? I have one question. If we are designating a corridor, it makes me think of maybe like an agricultural park, which the Department of Agriculture oversees. I know it's different because it's a greater, larger area of designation, but it makes me think is there any federal funding that can be put in when you designate an agricultural area? Is there qualifiers that could allow for federal funding?
I am not aware of any federal funding that would apply to a general area. Certainly can look into it. There is already some federal, I guess, not intervention, involvement in this area. One is through what used to be called the Farm and Ranch Land Protection Program under the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Farm and Natural Resources Conservation Service, whereby a conservation easement was established at the corner of Kunia Road and the H1 for the Hawaii Agriculture Research Center and the adjacent lands. That was in part, the lands were set aside by conservation easement using federal funds. Further north, there is, this land owned by the U.S. Army closer to Wheeler Airfield and Schofield Barracks, the West Range. But that's just fee-owned lands. All the other lands in between that are not owned or managed by the Agribusiness Development Corporation are privately held. And I don't know of any federal program that would, somehow combine everything, the public ownership and private ownership and different needs and wants, kind of hodgepodge of different uses and intents. So, but I certainly can take a quick look into that and get back to you.
Thank you. The other follow-up is, would this kind of designation create like a enterprise zone? Is that a similar model?
I don't know. I don't know what the intent of this designation is. Again, like I stated earlier, we can informally not informally, we can identify that area. Designation by, is it like, would it be like, I don't know, would it be like the enterprise, state enterprise zone? I would be just speculating. The state enterprise zone map for this area includes most of the area, which doesn't have much population, as you can imagine, between Kunia Village and rural Kunia, the rural Kunia subdivision. Thank goodness, because that would not be in the best interest of the city or the state to have residential development intruding into this this valuable agricultural area.
Thank you.
I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much. Any other
You're welcome.
questions, committee? We'll take a short recess and decision making will follow. Thank you. We are now back to do decision-making, the Committee on Agriculture and Food Systems. We are going to start off with HCR 38 and HR 42, and we are voting jointly on these measures as pairs. So the first one is urging the National Institute of Food and Agriculture of the United States Department of Ag to issue additional funding for GusNIP to support the state's Double Up Food Bucks program, to support the retail outlets via the SNAP program. And we are passing that out as is. Any questions, comments, concerns from committee? Noting none. Chair, please take the vote.
Okay. Members voting on HCR 38, HR 42. Chair's recommendation is to move this out as is. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Rep. Cochran?
Aye.
Rep. Lowen?
Aye.
Rep. Peruso?
Aye.
Rep. Woodson?
Aye.
Rep. Ward? Excuse. Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you, Chair. We're going to look at voting on HCR 43 and HR 47. This is the management of the rose ring parakeet population. We're going to move that out as a HD1 with amendments, and we are going to include some of DLNR's comments in that adjustment, and we're actually going to make the Hawaii Invasive Species Council the lead, and that was one of their recommendations as they are a division under DLNR. So where it says urging DLNR in consultation, Hawaii Invasive Species Council is going to take the lead on that, and we're going to use some of their amendments. Any questions, comments, concerns from committee? Okay, members, we're ready for the vote.
All right.
Chair.
Members voting on HCR 43, HR 47. Chair's recommendation is to pass this out as a HD1, noting all members present and the excused absence of Rep. Ward. Anyone voting no? Anyone voting with reservation? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, Chair. And now we're on HCR 105, HR 11. This is requesting the Department of Education to look at the strategic plan and goals to complete Acts 175 and 176. We are going to do a HD1 with amendments, and we're basically going to include some of the language from the testimony from the Ulupono Initiative to strengthen the benchmarks that were requested via the comments from testifiers today. So any questions, comments, or concerns from committee? Chair for the vote.
Members voting on HCR 105, HR 111, recommendation of the chair is to pass with amendments, noting all members present and the excused absence of Rep. Ward. Anyone voting no? Anyone voting reservations? Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, Chair. We're now on HCR 110, 116, and this is focused on establishing a pilot program for feral chickens and roosters. We are going to move this out as an HD1. There's some tech amendments to match the HCR and the HR in the be it further resolved that certified copies be transmitted. So we're adjusting that language. And we're also going to make the Hawaii Invasive Species Council the lead in this as well. And we're going to make sure there's a language with coordination of the counties to support the testimonies that we received today. Any comments, questions, or concerns from members? With none, Chair for the vote.
Okay. Members voting on HCR 110, HR 116. Chair's recommendation is to pass this out with amendments, noting all members present and the excused absence of Rep. Ward. Anyone voting no? Anyone voting reservation? Seeing none, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, Chair. Now moving on to HCR 131, HR 132. This is labeling requirements for Hawaii-grown tea. We're going to move this as is. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Chair for the vote when you're ready.
Okay, voting on HCR 131, HR 132. Recommendation of the chair is to pass as is, noting all members present. Anyone voting reservation? Anyone voting no? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. And the next set of resolutions, HR 169, HR 174. This is looking at how we work to adjust our laws related to the former sugar and pineapple industries. So we're going to make a few amendments and move this out as an HD1. We're going to add the ADC to be part of this consultation with the Department of Ag, so they can work together. And we are also strengthening the language in the action clause, be it resolved, to include ADC there as well. And we're also going to add one line in the whereas clause to define the Department of Ag's role in working together with the ADC on this. And that is all. Any questions, comments, concerns from committee members? Okay, Vice Chair for the vote.
Okay, voting on HCR 169, HR 174. Chair's recommendation is to pass out with the HD1, noting all members present and the excused absence of Rep. Ward. Anyone voting no, anyone voting reservation. Seeing none, chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, Chair. And now we're working on the organic pesticides resos, HER 175, HR 180. We're going to pass this as is. Any questions, comments from members? Okay, we're ready for the vote. Chair for the vote.
Okay. Members voting on HCR 175, HR 180. Chair's recommendation is to pass out as is, noting all members present and the excused absence of Rep. Ward. Anyone voting no, anyone reservations. Seeing none, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, Chair. And moving to our last resolution set, HCR 176, HR 181. This is the designation of the Central Oahu Agricultural Corridor. We're going to just make a slight amendment and make this an HD1 with amendments, and we're just going to include consultation with the ADC as part of the process of designation, not just DOA. Any questions, comments, concerns from members? Chair for the vote.
Members voting on HCR 176, HR 181. Chair's recommendation is to pass out as an HD1, noting all members present and the excused absence of Rep. Ward. Anyone voting no, anyone voting reservations. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you, members. We are now adjourned.
Hey.
Aloha kako. Welcome to the Joint Committee Hearing on Agriculture and Food Systems and Higher Education and Technology. I'm here with our amazing committee, Chair Gates, Representative Woodson, Representative Peruso, Representative Cochran, and thanks to the Higher Ed Committee for being here. Janae, do you want to Oh, and we have, go ahead.
The only two that have not been introduced are myself, Vice Chair for Higher Education, and Representative Scott Matayoshi.
We're just going to go over some brief housekeeping rules. There's a time limit of 2 minutes per testifier in order to allow as many people to testify as possible. In the interest of time, if you have submitted testimony, our committee has received it. If you wish to present oral testimony, please summarize your testimony. For testifiers attending over Zoom, please keep yourself muted and your video off while waiting to testify and after your testimony is complete. The Zoom chat function is only for technical support as needed. If you are disconnected unexpectedly for those on Zoom, you may attempt to rejoin the meeting. If disconnected while presenting testimony, you may be allowed to continue. If time permits, please note the House is not responsible for any bad internet connections on the testifier's end. In the event of catastrophic network failure, it may be necessary to reschedule the hearing or schedule a meeting for decision-making. In that case, an appropriate notice will be posted. Please refrain from profanity or uncivil behavior. Such behavior may be grounds for removal from the hearing. Lastly, if time permits, we will offer opportunity for walk-in testimony. Please make sure you provide your contact information to the clerk sitting on our right if providing walk-in testimony. We'll now hear our only measures on the agenda. This is House Concurrent Resolution 177 and HR 182. This is a resolution to urge the University of Hawaii Community College to establish baccalaureate degree programs in agricultural technology, food science, and education at Leeward Community College. The first testifier in person is the University of Hawaii.
Good morning or afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, members of both committees. The University of Hawaii stands on its written testimony, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. We also have supportive individual testimony from 2 others, 1 in opposition. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in this measure? Please step forward.
Thank you for your patience. Okay. Aloha, Chair, Vice Chairs, and the committees, Angela Melody Young, testifying in strong support. So agricultural technology, we are in strong support of creating a program at the school. So ag tech, what is it? Modern farms and agricultural operations work far differently than those a few decades ago, primarily because of advancements in technology, including sensors, devices, machines, and information technology. Today's agriculture routinely uses sophisticated technologies such as robots, temperature and moisture sensors, aerial images, and GPS technology. These advanced devices and precision agriculture and robotic systems allow businesses to be more profitable, efficient, safer, and more environmentally friendly. Farmers no longer have to apply water, fertilizers, and pesticides uniformly across entire fields. Instead, they can use the minimum quantities required and target areas, or even treat individual plants differently. Benefits include higher crop productivity, decreased use of water, fertilizer, and pesticides, and also this leads to greater efficiencies, lower prices, safer growing conditions, safer foods, reduced environmental and ecological impact. So that's what ag tech is. And, starting this program can be good because it will be a way perhaps to coordinate with the cafeteria school efforts. The program can also work in conjunction with the KCC Culinary Arts program. When you have similar initiatives, it's good to group them together to integrate the knowledge so that you can access more resources, so that these resources shared by these entities and organizations and efforts can help you achieve these goals together with the help of all the other sectors. And it can result in a well-coordinated statewide effort. So Karis just wanted to comment that we are in strong support, and if you source from this ag tech program, it can lead to better management and coordination strategies to achieve some of the other ambitious goals set by the state. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Would anyone else wish to testify on these resolutions? Seeing none, any questions from any of the committees? Representative Ward.
Is the professor here, or the administrator, community college person? Intellectually speaking, the demand seems to be very clear-cut, but are from the supply of students who want to do this, do you have any indication how that is? Like, hey, I want to get a degree in ag tech.
Well, that's a good question. So we do offer programs across the University of Hawaii system for different dimensions of agriculture. Some of our community college programs right now are relatively under-enrolled, and so we are working on different ways of promoting those for the community. And we are also working on pathways from the community colleges to the existing four-year programs in a range of fields related to agriculture.
If there's under-enrollment, how popular would a new one be, like ag tech?
Well, we're not advocating for a new program.
Oh, I see.
And so what we are supporting is the existing programs that we have at the four-year campuses, rather than starting up new four-year programs at a community college.
So how does this reso fit in with your game plan?
In terms of our internal game plan, this is not aligned with our current strategy in terms of our programming.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions from committee members? Okay, thank you very much. We are going to go straight into decision making. Okay. Related to this resolution HCR 177, HR 182, we're going to move this as a HD1 with amendments. We would like to add the chair to the members who are receiving this resolution once passed, to add the chairperson of the Board of Regents of the University of Hawaii as a recipient of the HCR and HR. And that is our only recommendation. Any comments from committee, questions or concerns?
I'm going to be voting up on this, but I am concerned that the university is saying that it's not in alignment with the work they're currently doing. So I'd like to see, if this does pass, I'd like to see some efforts to bring this kind of work into alignment with the UH planning, because I think the Board of Regents goes to great trouble to engage in that kind of planning. So.
Thank you, Chair. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Why are you looking at me?
I'm just waiting. With no other comments, we're going to move for the vote, and we're going to start with the Committee on Ag and Food Systems. Chair for the vote.
All right, members voting on ACR 177, HR 182. Recommendation of the chair is to pass out as an HD1. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Rep. Cochran?
Aye.
Rep. Lowen? Excused. Rep. Peruso?
Aye.
Rep. Woodson?
Aye.
Rep. Ward?
Given the testimony.
Noting the presence of Rep. Lowen?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Well, I didn't vote yet, sir.
Oh, you did it?
No, I said, given the testimony, and then you said, Rep. Lowen. I said, mild or slight reservations, given what the testimony is.
Okay. We will note your reservations in the, okay. Is that all?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, members. We'll move to the Higher Education Committee.
Thank you. Members, same recommendation. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, seeing none, chair for the vote.
On HR 182, HCR 177, chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Ebslin?
Aye.
Representative Lachika? Aye. Representative Martin? Excused. Representative Martinez? Excused. Representative Mariyoshi?
Aye.
Representative Quinlan? Excused. Representative Todd?
Aye.
Representative Woodson?
Aye.
Representative Garcia? Chair, your recommendation has been adopted.
Thank you so much, Higher Education Committee and Ag Committee and Food Systems. We're adjourned.